Shabbat shalom, everybody, and hope you had a good high holidays. I know we still have a little bit more to go, but we're kind of nearing the end of this blur of high holidays. And as you can see, I am out in my Sukkot, and that's where I'll be doing my recording for today for Parashat Noach. But if you'd like to indulge me, I'm going to go ahead and show you my Sukkot, the one that we build every year. Um, my wife did a great job on the decorations. So walk out. Hope you're not getting dizzy. Want to get that sun out of there. But as you see, we got our palm leaves up there. We got our sides beautifully decorated. So I hope you folks too. I'm sure by the time this Parsha becomes in effect, we will be done with Sukkot and we'll have to tear it down. It's always kind of a melancholy. It's kind of sad to take down our Sukkot, but it just feels so nice being in this covering under God's protection, and because that's really what it is. That's really what Sukkot is. And if you notice, one of the affirmations that we say when we put on our talitot is we thank God for being under a shelter, under as He shelter us as with eagle's wings. So it's really, really kind of a very beautiful type of a scenario and everything. Okay, so as we get done with our high holidays, I'm sure we all take a breath. But there's a part of me that really looks forward to this every year. I know it's a lot. This year, our three sets of holidays: Rosh Hashanah, Sukkot, the first 2 days, Shemini Atzeret, Simchat Torah, are all on Thursday and Friday. Right after that comes Shabbat. We did a couple of evening services in there. So, yes, it's a lot, but it's kind of a labor of love. And I really hope you feel the same way. One of the things that I endeavor to do, that I strive for as a rabbi, is not to drag you in and, okay, here's a service, let's do it, but to make it interesting and meaningful. And I'm very happy for a lot of the feedback that many of you have given me, as far as what you'd like to see less of, what you would like to see more of. One set of feedback I got was that there are people, and it's funny, if you come to our synagogue, you'll notice there's a crowd that likes to come on Friday night, and there's a crowd that likes to come on Saturday morning for Shabbat. And somebody would have liked to have heard my Friday night sermon on Saturday. Why don't we have a sermon on Saturday? Well, we have a Devar Torah. And it's a little bit more than just tradition that Saturday morning, since we take out the Torah, we talk a little bit about the Torah portion. And on Friday night, we don't. So we get a little bit of a didactic, a little bit of a lesson, just something maybe culled from one of the topics of Judaism, maybe something that's taken from that particular parsha or what's going on. So what I've decided to do, not really consistent yet. It's a learning curve, but I'm starting to record my sermons. I'm going to put it on my website, on the synagogue website, Temple Shalom with two O's of Ontario.org. And that way, for those of you that missed it, wants to hear it, there it is. Okay, so being outside has its drawbacks as we have helicopters going by, but we'll deal with it. Okay, second Parsha. And this year, Parsha Noah coincides with Rosh Chodesh of Cheshvan. Cheshvan is also called Mar Cheshvan, and it's kind of a barren month. Sometimes it has 29 days, sometimes it has 30, depending on the year. I believe this year we might see 30 because last year we didn't because it was a leap year. You don't want to add too many days. I mean, we're adding a month, we can just kind of lop off a day there. And it's kind of a rest. Think of Tishrei, the seventh month, as a month of rest. We have a lot of the holidays. We are supposed to rest almost like Shabbat for Sukkot. Of course, Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, without a doubt, they're Shabbatot, but we also Sukkot, Shemini Atzeret, Simchat Torah. And then the intermediate days of Sukkot are kind of like a mini rest. You just supposed to take care of whatever business you need to do to keep your business going. And then you come, and then you come back. So, and then Mar Heshbon finally, okay, back to work, business as usual. So, um, and it's kind of nice. I mean, we've had that month of rest, and I hope you folks have thought about your lives and your challenges and how to better deal with them in the coming year. I know I have. So anyway, okay, let's talk about Noah. Now, this year, 5785, is the third triennial year. So in most cases, not all, there's going to be a couple of exceptions. We will be reading the last third of the Parshas. And in this case, we all know the story of Noah. God went to Noah. Noah was righteous in his generation. Was he the most righteous person in his generation? Was that generation so bad, so horrible that, even the slightest improvement was looked on as good? Or, how would he have behaved compared if he had lived in the days of Abraham or Jacob or Moses? Or was he just generally a righteous person? The rabbis kind of debate that. They look at that phrase, in his generation, and wonder. So God taps him to be the sole survivor, he and his family, of a flood that's going to wipe out mankind. People have become very debased. We talked about this last week, about how in the last part of the Parsha Bereshit, the sons of nobles, that's our interpretation of the word Elohim, had felt privileged enough to just be able to take a wife from the daughters of mankind without their acknowledgement, without their consent, just do what they want. They just had no respect for people. And this carried on into the way people treated each other, taking their stuff. It was brazen. And God said, I got to start over again. So Noah lands, establishes humanity again. He and his sons give birth to humanity. And what happens a few generations later? A guy by the name of Nimrod is born. Now, I've always kind of questioned this as I've gotten more involved in Torah over the years, that when I was a kid, we liked to go camping and we had camping trailers. And some of you may be familiar with the brand StarCraft, but our first camping trailer was a Nimrod because Nimrod was a hunter. He was also kind of a ruthless dictator. People said that, this is the first time in recorded history, or at least it's called from the verbiage, that he was the first person to decide to establish a kingdom. He basically took charge. He built cities. He took charge. He said, I'm in charge. You do what I say. And that's it. They also said, so part of the Midrash, the folklore that talks about the Torah, is that he was an idol worshiper. He was a pagan. And he even tried to kill Abraham by throwing him into a furnace. And Abraham was spared and, left Ur Kasdim and, became Abraham. And we know that. And we'll talk about that in the weeks to come. So here's Nimrod, all full of himself, all arrogant. And he goes to his people, being a pagan, and he says, there's this God, okay? And I don't think he's so powerful, so let's see what we can do. So he gets everybody together. They say, we're going to build this tower. We're going to build it and build it and higher, and we are going to wage war with God and the angels in heaven. Now, people, when you think of heaven, what do? You look up. And what do you see? You see sky. And if you were able to look further, you'd see outer space. And you might be looking and looking and you don't see heaven. Heaven is not necessarily, folks, a place. It might be a different dimension. It might be a finer level of perception. Okay. Like we look at reality as we live on the edge of reality in the very material world, kind of like at the top of an ocean. What about those finer levels? So heaven is not necessarily a place, but of course, being a pagan, he didn't realize that. I don't think he cared. He just thought, okay, God's up in heaven, up. So let's go up and wage war on God. And it wasn't so much the fact that here he is building a tower and God's saying, okay, go ahead and knock yourself out. Let's see what happens when you get up a few miles, if you even get that far, and you start being not able to breathe the air because the air gets thin. But the problem is that tower was so important, and this is what I remember as a kid in Hebrew school, that if somebody died, somebody fell to their death, not a big deal. We'll just replace them. But if a brick fell and broke, people went freaked out. Oh my gosh. So it was that arrogance that God came down and said, you know what? This can't happen. So God confounded their speech. Now they say that prior to that, everybody spoke one language, and that language was Hebrew. It was a holy language. That's why a lot of people fought the idea when we established Israel to have Hebrew as the native language, a holy language, language of the Torah, language which God created everything with, right? You can't just speak it. So God just confounded them, gave them all different tongues, 70 nations, 70 languages. And consider that this is kind of maybe the first instance of Lashon Hara, evil speech, right? So God confounds their speech. They can't talk to each other. That's the end of the tower. Okay. So finally, at the end, we have more genealogy as we had at the end of Bereshit that led from Adam to Noah. Now we have another 10 generations. Welcome, Abraham or Avram. Okay. We will get to that next week. Shabbat Shalom. Hope may you all be inscribed in the book of life. And thank you, as usual, for listening.